Evening. It is 5:30 p.m. and I'm calling to order this meeting of the Fargo Board of Education. We will begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. Please stand and join us. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. I will look for approval of our agenda. Anyone? Okay, Greg.
I move approval of the agenda with the human capital addendum.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion from Greg and a second from Jason. Any questions? No? Okay, all in favor, please say yes.
Yes.
Any opposition, same sign. Okay, and that motion passes 9-0. Next, we are moving to recognition of the audience. At this time, the board will hear comments from the public on topics included on tonight's meeting agenda. If there is a topic an individual would like to address with the board that is not on the meeting agenda, we invite those to be shared with board members via email, phone, or the form available on our website. We ask that each speaker who has signed up to address the board state their name and home school district for the record. The board values and welcomes courteous, respectful, and civil behavior from all speakers and people attending the board meeting. The board expects speakers to limit statements to those relating to the operations of the board and refrain from comments of a personal nature unrelated to the operation of the board. Obscene language and disruptive behavior will not be tolerated. The board requests speakers not to be defamatory, abusive, harassing, or unlawful. The board is interested in your comments and will listen carefully, but is not obligated to respond to or debate issues in this forum. This evening, 3 speakers have signed up to address the board. Each speaker will be allotted a maximum of 3 minutes. Upon conclusion of the allotted time, a chime will sound and the speaker is asked to conclude. If necessary, a final chime will sound 15 seconds later, signifying the end of the speaker's time at the podium. I will now call our first speaker to the podium, and that is Paul Moore.
So good evening. I'm Paul Moore, I live in Fargo. I'm here to talk a little bit about naming the new North Side Elementary School in honor of Charlie Kirk. Charlie Kirk dedicated his life to empowering young people and to think critically, engage respectfully, and creatively pursue the truth. His vision for education, rooted in curiosity, character, and opportunity, remains. So why Charlie Kirk Elementary? Charlie believed that education should unite us, not divide us. He championed values that transcend politics, freedom of thought, respect for diverse perspectives, and the pursuit of knowledge. These principles are foundational for any school that seeks to prepare children for a bright future. Charlie's ideas about education promote better outcomes. Students who master reading by 3rd grade are 4 times as likely to graduate high school than those who don't. And looking at last year's scorecard, we need this. His ideas promote community strength. Higher education attainment correlates with stronger civic engagement and healthier communities. Strong schools create strong communities. Even when challenges like reduced walkability will arise. Equity. Closing achievement gaps early is critical. Children from low-income families who receive strong elementary education are 50% more likely to attend college later in life. So Charlie's message was simple. Equip students with the tools to think, not tell them what to think. That ideal belongs in every classroom. Naming the school after Charlie Kirk is not about politics. It's about honoring a legacy of educational empowerment and civic responsibility. Naming the school after Charlie Kirk sends a clear message. Fargo Public Schools values critical thinking, character, and opportunity for all. And I'll just add, my child went to Horace Mann and Roosevelt. And so I'm, disappointed that we're even considering putting these schools together. And like I said, with the walkability issues, I mean, there's a lot of people, and the Madison ones are going to be the worst ones impacted because they're going to be the furthest away from their school, and they're probably in the least capable of getting those children to the school. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next on our list is Seth Holden.
Good evening, everybody. How y'all doing? I'm here to talk about the naming of the new Northside Elementary School. Sorry, Seth Holden, Horace Mann Roosevelt. My oldest is going to Horace Mann right now, and my youngest will start kindergarten next year. So both of my children will go to this new school. 5 years ago, we were doing the same thing when it came to renaming Woodrow Wilson. And at that time, I was in one of those seats, and I advocated heavily that the board not name a building after a person. My reasons for that were people are not perfect, and we can find out things about people that we didn't know and put ourselves in a position where we were 5 years ago with a name. The easiest way to politicize this process is to name it after a person. Unfortunately, we've already had one board member politicize this by putting one certain name forward. And so, having said all that, I still hold that philosophy when it comes to naming buildings. However, in this instance, I would pass on that philosophy because I think that the name Horace Mann should be retained for this school, and for several reasons. First, there has been zero controversy over this name in over 100 years, and the name has stood the test of time. The man's legacy, I think, and what he stood for when it comes to public education matches Fargo Public Schools philosophies. I also, as much as when I was on the board, I did advocate for the long-range facilities plan and advocate for building this new school and consolidating these schools. But the consequence to that is that all the north side neighborhoods, and a lot of you live in those neighborhoods, we identify those neighborhoods by those schools. And we're already going to take that identification away from two neighborhoods. It seems counterintuitive that we would have to do it for a third when it's unnecessary. And especially that name, when it comes to the neighborhoods that that these schools are in, as far as my understanding goes, Horace Mann got the most submissions. And so I think the people in that neighborhood have made it clear that they would like that name to retain in that school. And if at some point in time, this board needs to have a referendum and ask people to vote for that referendum, by having that sour taste in their mouth already of having to demolish that building and build a new one and then have it renamed, it might be a little bit hard to get those folks on board with things that the board would like to do in the future. So please consider that, and thank you for your time. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Seth. Our next speaker is Carrie Ann Platt.
Northside Elementary, but I love the fact that our principal should back up and say I am the PTA president for Horace Mann Roosevelt School, and I have a fifth grader in that school. And I love that our principal, who is here today, did ask the kids what they would like to see the school named. I believe she has a list of the top 5, and hopefully she'll have an opportunity to share that. I'm here today because I would like to speak to the north side boundaries that have been proposed in order to help even out enrollment on the north side of our school district. I sent an email earlier, but I feel strong enough about it and wanting to represent what we heard at our last PTA meeting that I came out to speak to y'all this evening and to ask for a respectful reconsideration, specifically of the north boundary for this new Northside Elementary, whatever it ends up being named. In the proposed plan, that Northside boundary has moved down to 12th Avenue North my understanding is the prior one, 15th Avenue North. So requesting a reconsideration to bring back those blocks that are now in the proposed plan moving up to Washington, and to consider retaining them in the new North Side School for 3 primary reasons. The first one is that my experience with Fargo Public has been a strong commitment to the value of folks from different backgrounds coming in contact with one another on a regular basis. I am concerned that moving a lot of these single owner homes into the Washington district is going to reinforce some socioeconomic inequity that we have experienced in our school district, and create a situation from the outset where we may not have that awesome mix of background and perspective that I have experienced with Horace Mann Roosevelt. My kids have benefited directly from. We've seen it in like the partnerships that we've built within the PTA. And so considering whether that slight change to the proposed boundaries may help us start off in a better place with the North Side School in terms of that socioeconomic and background diversity. The second was mentioned earlier, that has to do with walkability. Many folks who bought homes in that area did so because they wanted to be able to walk to the elementary school. It helps us with activity, engagement, a sense of community. And so the folks who are in this block who may be 1 or 2 blocks away from where the elementary school is now busing to Washington, that doesn't serve this function of walkability and community. And the third element has to do with the partnerships and community engagement we've established since kind of coming back from our pandemic times when we weren't always together. We've done a lot of community building. We've done some outreach to the Madison PTA. We're wanting to keep that momentum going, and moving some of these families outside and moving them into Washington would diminish what we have built thus far. So I thank you and appreciate your reconsideration of that northern border.
Thank you very much for those comments. Next on our agenda will be our reports, and Laura Christensen, Madam President, do you have some words to share with us tonight?
Thank you, Madam President. I'm going to start with a little Shakespeare for you. You join in. Oh, Romeo, Romeo, wherefore art thou? Yeah, very good. I'm not actually going to talk about names. I just wanted to do Shakespeare a little bit. Okay. I gave my seniors 3 prompts. I asked them to think about, and then they were going to share in small groups, and then we did some really good sort of discussion group protocols and note-taking, and I asked them 3 things. What can we, and the we is schools, do to make social media safer? How can we, schools, help them achieve academically during the school year, like intervention time and so on? And what do they need us, schools, to do to help them get ready for the real world? Did you hear me pronounce the capital R and W in that real world there? I always struggle with that label because the real world is right here. This is the real world. So my seniors did understand. I gave them that whole caveat, and they understand I'm talking about like the near future and a few years out. What's next year? With very few exceptions, my students did not say schools should do less. Most kids groups agreed that getting ready for the next thing might take more content, specifically finance and money management, more career exploration, more information and help with post-secondary education, options and logistics. Many students thought lessons in social skills, pre-learning protection for social media, anti-bullying should continue into high school. And that's where our counselors do some really heavy lifting for us in the elementary, middle schools, high schools as well. And they said that although it really should be parents, they understand that it's not always parents are able to do that kind of learning and protection and help for them. And the more I was thinking about it and looking at their responses, I don't think students say anything that educators don't agree with. Mostly, we educators and learners all want the same things when we're being for real. I mean, we probably all want chocolate milk for lunch too. So, we all want school to be meaningful while we're in it. Graduation should mean something, not just a data point and not just a step towards the next thing. That would be capital N, capital T. Grades and learning should mean something, and that something should be the same thing for everybody. Some of these seem like kind of not really so much but it's important that we realize that educators and learners are thinking the same things. We all want people to be successful as people, not a cog in a system, not a job to be filled. Learners and educators want predictability, or maybe it's more like readiness, relevant experiences, and agency. So let's do that. That's what we do, is we educate and empower all of us to succeed.
Thank you, Laura. And now we'll turn to Dr. Steiner.
Yeah, thank you, Laura. I think you just wrote our next newsletter article with that. So some celebrations. Jill Pauley was the first Catalyst certified parent at Centennial. I got to see that the other day. A recertification was Kristen Knutson, first grade teacher, and Misty Miller. I had an opportunity. Sydney Azure asked if I'd want to observe, so I got to put the headset on and listen to what I was watching, and it was really remarkable how engaged the kids were, how controlled the classroom was, but controlled in a way that really, really allowed kids to share their voices. Really remarkable hour. And then April Arnold and Cassie Knapp were both first-time certifications. If you haven't been paying attention, this Friday around 7 o'clock, there's a cool thing going on, and that's our Davies football team will be playing for the state championship against Bismarck Century at the Fargo Dome. So hopefully anybody and everyone can come out and support the Eagles. And then we found out today, Travis Christensen, who is our high school principal at Fargo North, is the co-Region 6 Principal of the Year, which will allow him to advance on to the state competition for North Dakota Principal of the Year. Very difficult couple weeks at the Fargo North High School, and I think of all the people that would be leading that, Travis was the perfect person at the perfect time. So congratulations to Travis. A few of my updates. Last week I had shared with the board, I met with homeschool families. I had 10 people that came. Conversations were really wonderful. We talked a lot about how we need to be partners in this journey because their kids are in the community and live right next door to the kids that go to our schools and are probably going to be married into families and work for others. And so making sure that we partner going forward, and we talked about ways to do that. Next week, Dr. McKenna and I have a meeting with Sanford to continue that conversation about a potential clinic on site. We will hopefully be advancing that up and eventually be bringing to the board some ideas of what that could look like, but it's looking really positive right now. Next week, I'll serve on a Level D state meeting. So Level D, if you want to think of our Explorer Academy, that would be for special needs. Fargo was very forward thinking when they developed the Explorer Academy. That comes from someone who's been in places that's not had that as an option. And somebody said, well, you should have just built it bigger. And I said, I think the answer is they always would just want a rotating wall to keep having to get bigger and bigger. But ultimately, at some point, the state really needs to step in and recognize that this is a model that needs to be expanded throughout. And so they're going to have conversations about what is the appetite for regional Level D facilities throughout the state. And if there's money in that, can that happen? So I've also told them, don't forget about those that did it first, because we also had one in rural Cass as well. So that's good news that the state is listening to some of the concerns that people have brought forward. The Fargo Youth Initiative was a group that was led by the city. With some of the city cutbacks, they're not going to be able to necessarily keep that in place in its current form. So we had a meeting the other day and we said, what if we just took that on? And so we've already gotten commitments from one of the city commissioners to join, one of the county commissioners, and a member for the Parks Department, which will be new, the Boys and Girls Club with Robin. And we are going to get that set up as to be kind of an extension of Fargo Public Schools to try to promote civic engagement and keep some momentum that was joined by that group. And we also will continue with our board representative on there as well. And then today finished many listening sessions on evidence-based reporting. So it ties in really well to what Laura was talking about. We've got a lot of good information now to figure out exactly what our strong philosophy is going forward and what adjustments we'll make to our systems to make sure that we're crystal clear about what learning means for our kids and what a diploma means for our kids. So that's what's going on in my world right now.
Thank you very much for those updates. Next, we'll move to our consent agenda, and I'll look for a motion. Nikki,
I move that we accept the consent agenda along with the human capital addendum.
okay, we have a motion from Nikki and a second from Namal. Any conversation? Okay, all in favor, please say yes.
Yes.
Any opposition, same sign. And that motion passes 9-0. That brings us to our business section, and the first item on here is memo number 51, which is the superintendent evaluation, and that comes from me. I will share that like we have in the past, I gathered the information from all of the board members. I tried to summarize and kind of capture our collective feelings and thoughts and evaluation of our superintendent. Obviously, he's quite new in his time with us, but the comments were still very overwhelmingly positive. Some of the highlights, I would say, strong relationship building. There seems to be a lot of appreciation for your visibility in the schools and in the community. A really strong commitment to collaboration, and then also recommendations that you really continue prioritizing our budget, because we know that that's a dire situation right now. So with that, I will look for a motion, and then we can have some discussion. Melissa?
I move that we approve the formative assessment of the superintendent indicating satisfactory performance and place a copy of the report in the superintendent's personnel file.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion from Melissa and a second from Nikki. Any discussion, any comments or questions? Robin?
You've had a tremendous start joining our district. Thank you. I look forward to what we can do together in the future.
Anything else? Namal?
Well, I would like to say thank you for being here at FPS, and also to okay, it's working. I'm not sure if you all know Dr. Strenner. Jesus, I always mix up his name, and it's just lovely. But anyway, what I'm trying to say is in here is he's been doing an amazing job, and there's certain things that I have not disclosed, but we had a group of diverse community that do meet, and it was because of him that we were able to meet monthly or every other month or so, and that's the reason why I'm speaking up, because the fact that this group of diverse community coming together from different leader, and he was being able to listen to us speak about the issues that are in our school system regarding diverse children and so forth, and the fact that he was listening, and I thought that is the first step forward to be able to bring the community together. That's why I wanted to say, sorry, Dr. Steiner. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And Anne Marie, I think we're ready for the roll call.
Yes.
Clark?
Yes.
Day?
Yes.
Gullickson?
Yes.
Jason Nelson?
Yes.
Kristen Nelson?
Yes.
Robin Nelson?
Yes.
Olenberger?
Yes.
Christensen Meinier?
Yes, and that motion passes 9-0. Our next item is memo number 52, and this is the elementary north side attendance boundary changes. Greg, I was going to turn over to you first since this came to us from planning. Does that work for you, or do you want me to pivot to someone else?
No, I don't really think I have anything to add compared to when we had our first reading. I would guess we have received today and throughout the past couple weeks some feedback with some concerns from the community, and maybe I'll give admin an opportunity if there's some data we have that might address some of the concerns.
I don't know if I have any more data than we provided, but I will say that I've been able to talk to a couple individuals concerned about the boundary change. And again,
all of it is coming from, I think, a great perspective of wanting our schools to be as healthy as possible. I think one of the things that we are struggling with, if we kind of go backwards, is we originally thought we could build a 4-section building for our new elementary. When we chose the Horace Mann space, we could only build a 3-section building, right? Which is going to limit your enrollment. So then we have to say, okay, how many students can we serve as we go forward with the honoring the intent? When we looked at that, that is one of the reasons that we are proposing that we'll go down to 12th from 15th. It's about 70 students that would move to Washington. And that is so that the new school is not overpopulated as we go forward. It is a difficult situation. I think we have to remember we're going to have to monitor the north side enrollment over the next few years. Predictions are saying that we're going to be down about 80 students, but it's not all in a specific area. For example, Washington is where we're losing most of the students. And so that's a good thing too, right? Families are staying in their homes, but it's not families with students is what we're seeing as we go forward. So I don't think there's a great answer. I think one of the questions I thought was a very good question. Someone said, why do we go around McKinley and send the students furthest north all the way to Washington? That has been in our district for a very long time. We looked at that. We don't have enough room at McKinley right now with our 5-year prediction for them to go there. I do know that it looks like, and again, predictions, we have to be careful and watch that, but we probably in a couple of years do have to talk about, can we use the existing buildings on the north side and McKinley would be absorbed into Longfellow and Washington as we go forward. The walkability is really tough because what's going to happen if we end up, and that's what's predicted across the nation, you're going to have a larger and larger area to feed a school. And so we probably are going to have more busing regardless as we go forward on that. So I just wanted to address, I think that we also have been very successful at some of our other schools with strategies on parent involvement. We would not let that go away, but we are going to have to work at that as we go forward. But I do really respect the people that have reached out for the question. So I don't have a different option as I tried to look at it a couple different ways, but I would certainly listen to the board if they had a recommendation.
Go ahead.
So currently, Washington's utilization is 55%. Could you, in 1 minute, give us a reason why or what the impacts of that low utilization rate mean in a practical way?
Yep. I think a building the size of Washington really could be around 450, and we're under 300 at the building currently and predicted to go down another 50 in the next 5 years. What's interesting with Washington being at around 300 right now is 70 of the students are not residents of Washington. So through open enrollment and petitions is where that 70 is coming from. So that's not always maybe something you can guarantee because it is dependent on the family being able to transport as we go forward. So we are down to 2 sections in K1 and 2, 3 sections in our upper grades. So we'd be continuing to dwindle for such a large building that to pay, just the expense. But it's also a very good building that we could house students in.
Melissa?
Sort of to that point, do you know how many of those open enrolled students going to Washington are from that band of 12th Avenue to 15th Avenue within that group? Or is that?
Well, I could find that out. What I do know is that band is about 70 students. Now, I will tell you that we think we're probably going to be a little squished our first couple of years when we're building because we want to honor and grandfather, if they can provide transportation or walk, they could finish at Roosevelt.
Do we have other questions or comments? We still actually need a motion.
I can make the motion, Katie.
Okay, Ally?
I move that we approve the attached or the presented boundary change implementation plan and direct administration to proceed with implementing for the 2026-27 school year.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion from Ally and a second from Greg. Do we have more conversation or questions? Okay, Robin,
I just will note that
you're not there.
this boundary change would have taken me out of my beloved Horace Mann when I was growing up. So shifts are hard in communities, but they're important to the people that are in them.
Melissa?
Yeah, I have a few other comments and more questions too. And Missy, thank you very much for kind of proactively addressing a lot of them. I had the opportunity to attend the Horace Mann Roosevelt PTA meeting last week, and so I'm kind of wanted to discuss some of the comments that came up during those meetings. We heard them very beautifully summarized already, so thank you, Carrie Ann. But I just wanted to kind of discuss, so currently Washington's, and I'm looking at the page 6 of the plan that has the chart of all of the capacity and utilization and then the free and reduced lunch. So currently Washington's at 29. That's going to be increasing with the proposed to 36. And then with the new elementary, that would be 64. And I'm assuming that if those, if we didn't move the boundary, we would actually broaden those disparities with the free and reduced lunches between Washington and then the new elementary.
I just want to make sure I understand, if we kept the boundary at 15th, you're saying
Right.
instead that Washington would be lower? than-
Right, but-
Yes, yes.
Yeah, so I think the tricky part is some of our, just with our narrow, strangely growing cities, sometimes trying to move around boundaries don't actually end up achieving the goal that we're trying to achieve. And then just out of curiosity, it looks like the projected utilization going into 29-30 for the new elementary would be 96. So if I'm understanding, working through our long range facility planning, we do like to have a little bit of a buffer before we get to 100% capacity. So if we didn't have the boundary change, we would be spilling over into an area with the new elementary that would be challenging.
Yeah, you'd be over 100%.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions or comments? I'll just add very briefly that I'm not thrilled about these decisions. I think as a Northsider, there is a lot of pride in that walkability. I think having been on the board for the past few years and see this, we are in a really tricky spot with our Northside schools because of that decline in student enrollment. And I think we're really getting to a point where it doesn't feel sustainable academically or financially. And I think that is really heartbreaking, and my heart really goes out to the community and the people feeling this. And I think we're really stuck and have to make some tough choices for the academics of our children and also the financial situation in our district. So I think that's where we are. Anything else? Okay, Anne Marie, can you call the roll, please?
Clark,
Yes.
Day,
Yes.
Gullickson,
Yes.
Jason Nelson,
Yes.
Kristen Nelson,
Yes.
Robin Nelson,
Yes.
Olenberger,
Yes.
Berkland,
Yes.
Christensen Meinier.
Yes. And that motion passes 9-0. Okay, next we are going to the Northside Elementary School naming process. That is memo number 53. Hopefully you have spent some time thinking about I believe it's 406 individual decisions that you're going to have to make this evening. So before we get started on this, one thing I want to point out is we don't actually have an action or a motion that we're taking. We're completing this process to select our top 5 to move on. There's one thing that I do want to point out, and then I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Steiner to provide a little bit of input, and then we can have some discussion. Since these names came out, I've learned a few things just from some community members reaching out. I think it's important as we're voting that we keep in mind that West Fargo School District has a Meadowlark Elementary School and a Heritage, I think it's a middle school, right?
Moorhead has heritage.
Oh, Moorhead has heritage. Okay, so Meadowlark, no. Somebody has a heritage. But doesn't West Fargo?
West Fargo's heritage, sorry, yep.
Okay. Yeah, so Meadowlark and Heritage exist as schools within our community. I think that could create some confusion if we have schools with the same name in basically like communities right next to each other. It's also been brought to our attention some concerns about the names Bridges and Gladys Ray, and that there are also buildings or programs or structures with those names or organizations, those names attached to them. So I'm not necessarily telling you how to vote. I'm just saying these might be things that we want to keep in mind in terms of confusion that it might create in our community if we have organizations or buildings that share names. So from there, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Dr. Steiner.
Thank you, Katie. So before we started this and got in there, I thought I've never been part of this. So I'm like, what would I want to think of in terms of this process? And it's probably gotten a little more complex the closer we've gotten to today. But here's some things that came to mind. Let's think through to pronounce it at any grade level. The English language is really hard. You can see stuff out there all the time on words that mean that are spelled the exact same way and mean different things depending on how it's used in the sentence. So I would love to make sure that from the kindergartner all the way up to the fifth grader on that. Sometimes I worry about really abstract things. Kids need to know what something is, who someone is. I think that's really important for them because there is a sense of pride that gets attached to that. I think it's important to remember, and this may seem weird and trivial, and I probably didn't think this was a big deal until I've been in elementaries with different mascots, but we need to think about what the mascot would be. And no, you're not picking that, but we want something that flows. And I've just seen it when I watch Tara wear different sweatshirts every day with different elementary mascots. So I think think through a little bit. What does the name lead to a mascot that could be in there? And again, that can be something the kids decide or however, but I think that's good. Also too, I hope that the one thing that has happened at Horace Mann is like this 80 plus years of history that's come through there. And I'm hoping that another 80 years that this building will be there. It'll be there long after any of us are probably going to be around here. So the relevance needs to really strong and be able to stand the test of time. And I think that's really, really important. And you guys know this, but, and Leandra probably has some information on it, but we're naming it for the kids. Ultimately, when it gets said and done, I saw one submission from Mrs. Roach's first grade class and the reasons for it, which I thought were really cute. So these were just some things that came to my mind. It's not an easy decision, but ultimately we're going to be able to build something really, really wonderful for that neighborhood. And that's going to do really great things for kids and give our chance for educators and leaders to shine. So those were some things that I just wanted to lift up as somebody new to this process.
Okay, thank you. So I will open this up for discussion. If you do have something to say, I'm going to ask that you please keep it very brief because we have 9 people up here and 29 names on here. I don't really want to get into a situation where we're debating names, but if there are things that you want to add to the conversation or ask board members to keep in mind, I'm quite comfortable with that. Again, just please try to keep it brief because I think we were estimating it's going to take us like maybe 30 minutes to kind of click through all the things, 20 minutes. So we got a little task ahead of us. I do have a request from one board member to speak last, and that's Robin, so I'm going to grant that. Go ahead, Allie, did you want to start?
I have a quick question. It was alluded to that Leandra has some information from the kids. Is it worthy that we can have her share that information with us before we go through this process?
Okay. I think that's fine.
I want to hear from the kids, frankly.
Leandra, would you like to share?
I'm normally a rule follower, so being up here feels a little different. Should have signed my name up. Sorry.
I want to hear from the kids too. I do want to point out that I'm assuming you are representing Horace Mann and Roosevelt.
Yes.
And we do have a third school, Madison, that's not, we don't have input from them today, so I'm going to ask us to keep that in mind as we hear this input.
And thank you. So today when I was going through classroom to classroom to read the 29 names over and over and over again, so I feel your pain, we did talk about that. We said, how would you like walking into a building brand new? No one's feet have been on the floor. I said, what are you going to think about doing that? And they said, oh my gosh, you mean nobody's walked on the floor? I said, probably not. You're going to be the first kids. These were our third graders. They'll be the fifth graders. And I said, now, what if we named it Horseman Roosevelt? Well, that wouldn't be fair to Madison kids. I said, why not? Well, that's not their name. I said, well, what if we named it Madison? Well, that wouldn't be fair to us because that's not our name. So our students are very wise and they're very compassionate and they're very empathetic. So with the names that I get to put forward, these are out of the 29 that we were able to choose. It was a quick heads down, hands up activity. And these are 5 in no particular order that our students chose today. First I'll read to you is Unity Elementary, Horseman Elementary, Martin Luther King Jr. Elementary, North Star Elementary, and Prairie Rose Elementary. And so that's about almost 200 children giving you their input. And I'm honored to be their voice because they said, are you going to have to speak to all of your bosses? I said, I am. So from my tiny bosses to my big bosses, there you have it.
Thank you very much.
Thank
I
you.
really appreciate that. Okay, other discussion. I know you are. Nikki? Oh, Nikki and then Jason.
Okay, and I don't mean any offense to this, but I went through the renaming of the Woodrow Wilson. And so I'm real cautious of assigning any name to this. I appreciate the number of people that want to keep it Horace Mann. Leandra, I appreciate the viewpoint that you bring from the kids because that same thought was on my mind. It's wonderful if we could keep that, but there are other schools involved. And so I'm just a little skittish. I'm not saying it's wrong. I'm not saying I couldn't support it. I'm just saying I would like to see if we could stay away from naming a specific person. There was someone that had alluded to that there was nothing wrong or contentious or changed about Horace Mann. Well, we saw one earlier today, and that doesn't mean it's the popular thought, but there's going to be somebody somewhere that's going to have an issue with a person. So just my 2 cents. I will support whatever we decide, just thinking through it logically.
Thank you, Nikki. Jason?
I respect your views, but I hold it a little different. I think it's an opportunity to name the school after someone that the students can look up to and aspire to be. And the name that stands out to me was Roger Maris. And one reason for that is the community submitted his name, I think, around 80 times. So there's overwhelming support for him in our community. The recent Facebook articles about the naming, a lot of positive comments about naming it after Roger Maris. He did live in Fargo. He lived in that neighborhood. He played with his friends in that neighborhood. He played post 2 baseball 3 blocks away from the school. He also attended Roosevelt. That was a junior high at the time. I've been in contact with their family. And the first words out of their mouth was they'd be deeply honored if we chose that name. They also provided me with the 1949 yearbook from Roosevelt Junior High, some photos that Roger Jr. sent me. It's the 9th grade class. It was called The Quoter. I had a hard time finding if it was actually a junior high. Anne-Marie helped me with some of that research, so thank you. One of the clips that they sent me was just the athletics page in the yearbook, and it just highlights a lot of different events that year. Roger and there's this other gentleman, Kirby. Those 2 names pop up over and over in the different events. And just reading some of them from 1949, it's pretty interesting. Here's like a basketball clip. Roosevelt proved too much for MSTC by outscoring, outplaying, outclassing them to a 36-9 game. The whole team played. Maris made 5 buckets, Kirby made 3, and 3 free throws. There's a whole page of writing like that. It's very interesting. It was fun to read. I've had some great conversations with Roger Jr. They don't live in this community anymore, but they do contribute a lot to this community with different clubs, focus on youth. And so I think he would be an excellent representative. He's someone that is from our community. He has received the North Dakota Rough Rider Theodore Roosevelt Award in 1964 by Governor Guy for all the right reasons. I think he's someone that kids can aspire to be. Nicknames, I'm sure they can come up with something if we get to that. With that, I would at least ask the board to consider him in the top 5 so we can get public feedback over the next 2 weeks before we make the final decision.
Thank you. Anyone else like to speak? Please keep it brief. Nimal?
Oh, I'll keep it brief. Our school need to be a place where all our students feel welcome, safe, respected, and definitely not that individual that we just talked about. Because Charlie. So, as a person who's very, very strong in political position, and saying things that have divided communities and hurt vulnerable groups. He and his organization have also spread misinformation about important topics like elections and public health. If we were to name a school after someone who's so controversy and divisions, it could cause hurt, anger in our community. I believe our school should bring people together, celebrate value that support every child. For this reason, I don't think we should name somebody like that. And because I do believe that we should choose a name that reflects kindness, unity, and pride in our communities, not someone that bring in division in our communities, especially in Fargo-Moorhead area that is so diverse with so many different backgrounds, so many different languages, especially in our school system. We have so many different languages. Forget about Christianities, which we all are, is very fundamental of who we are. But we have so many different religious too in our communities. So basically, I'm sorry, but it just brought so many attention to our community, and I think that's wrong. We as a board should be stand in bipartisans. We are not Republican or Democrat here. So for that, I hope that you really reflect on when you choose these kind of names and make sure that one kid who come in that door come to a school that have a name that unite all 3 of them, all 3 different schools, not just only one person. Thank you.
Thank you, Nimal. Other thoughts? No? Okay. So Robin, are you up?
Oh, I'm ready.
Oh, we have handouts. For the board members?
And everybody that's.
Okay. I was just wondering, does Dr. Steiner get one or should I skip him? Okay.
It's not a secret. Okay. Thank you for the thoughtful comments. We've had a very engaged community in this. Probably the majority of them from outside the Horace Mann neighborhood. Horace Mann was the name that received the highest number of submissions from the public, but one of those that received some of the lower support from our individual board members. Katie warned me to be brief. I am going to try my best, and that's why I handed out the PowerPoint. So I have 7 points, and I'm going to cruise through them. Number one, personal connection and neighborhood identity. I am the only existing board member right now who attended Horace Mann, and likely the only one who lived in the Horace Mann neighborhood. The Horace Mann neighborhood. The area is widely recognized as the Horace Mann neighborhood. Residents identify themselves as part of this community. Historical significance of Horace Mann. Horace Mann is a pioneer in public education, often called the father of the American public education. Key contributions advocated for universal, non-sectarian, free public schooling, championed professional training for teachers in standardized curriculum, and even today, there's a longstanding insurance company for education professionals that's named Horace Mann Insurance, reflecting his enduring legacy. Number three, integration of Madison and Roosevelt students. I had to put a lot of thought into this because I respect a lot of comments that have been said. Our district hired Confluence, a firm, to work with Madison and Roosevelt neighborhoods and some others that might be decommissioned. And there was a very purposeful community redevelopment plan. Nikki and I interviewed the Confluence group, who I can share some more information on. If you look at the April 8th board meeting memo number 91, that has a nice outline there. We spent a big chunk of change on that. The opportunities to exist to honor Madison and Roosevelt neighborhoods still would preserve their names within their neighborhoods that we have not completed this community development process yet, and or name rooms in areas of the new Horace Mann building after Madison and Roosevelt. I would love to see a Roosevelt room. I will tell you that unequivocally, everybody that they interviewed in every school outside of these, their number one concern was that they are fearing their loss of neighborhood identity. Their loss of neighborhood identity all the way across the board. Precedent for retaining names. Previous examples, Jefferson Elementary was rebuilt on its original site and retained its name. Carl Benelson was an elementary that was transitioned to a middle school, but it kept its name because that's where the neighborhood identified. Policy context. Administrative Policy 3260 was originally approved in 2005. It was revived 5 times. We often revise policies, but the major overhaul came in 2020 when we were considering the Woodrow Wilson school name. An entire section was added to the renaming concept, and it was added and it's supported to this policy. That said, whatever this policy brings us, I am going to support the majority of the board. Community sentiment. Horace Mann neighborhood residents are already grieving the loss of an existing building. And again, the Confluence study, after losing their identity, every neighborhood has concerns. Let's see here. And the majority of the Horace Mann residents that I talk to, and I know a lot, are very afraid of that. There's no controversy around the current name. Exactly to your point. Thank you, Naimal. In all my years, I'm not going to tell you how many, I have never encountered concerns about the name Horace Mann. There is no compelling reason to change it other than trying to have an exciting new name. And this is an exciting process, but I don't want our board members to forget about the tradition that has been there for 110 years. And so in closing, my recommendation is that we prioritize the name Horace Mann for the rebuilt school and preserve the identity of the Horace Mann neighborhood and still respect the neighborhoods of Roosevelt and Madison that has been lost in this conversation, and they will not be forgotten. I believe that is all, but I do have copies of the Confluence report if anybody would like to see it. thank you for letting me share my statement.
Okay. Is Ally allowed to speak?
Sure.
Thank you for this, Robin. Quick question for you. Just historically with Jefferson and Carl Ben, was those combinations or were those schools just rebuilt?
Carl Ben, well, Jefferson.
changed, yeah.
Jefferson was existing students. It moved to a different part of the property. Carl Ben was an elementary, which is now a middle school. So yes, there was displacement for those students to the surrounding neighborhoods. But we heard overwhelmingly, we had multiple community forums, and the policy was different then, that they wanted to retain their neighborhood schools, but really what they wanted to retain was their neighborhood identity. And that is highly important in the North Side. I will remind you that we have more than one North Side Elementary as well. So I caution that name.
Okay, I think we're ready to push buttons. Does that
Okay.
sound like a plan?
I'm ready. Thank you for
Okay.
letting me speak last. Last time I spoke first on this topic.
All right. Does everyone understand the task? Okay. Yeah, how do we get
If
it?
you go to the link that I originally sent you, it will automatically update to not the mock names, but the real names.
Look at that.
So if you guys want to refresh and look at that, so it should be cleared out and the names,
We have to make sure
29
we
names
don't
should be there.
delete your emails then, right?
Yeah. If you need that link again, please let me know. Happy to send that.
Practice, it says practice site, that one?
The one that, yeah, in the email that I sent you with
Okay.
practice site, it will be the same link.
Yes, it is.
So
And
you will.
Stephen is here, so you can give us help as well, because thanks to Mr. Duro for building this. It's quite wonderful.
Yep, so Stephen and I can come around and help if anybody has any questions, but it will take a little bit for you to compare each one against the other.
If somebody has questions, who should they ask? You just said that, right?
Stephen or I can help.
Sorry.
And even if you select, there's a way to redo the
I was
one.
busy trying to find the link. Okay, thank you for putting this together. So we'll just pause the meeting until we all push our buttons. Okay. Okay, are we back? No, Nikki's right here. Yeah. Okay, all right, so we have our top 5, is that correct?
Yeah, so all of you completed your forced choice matrix, so you had 406 clicks, I believe you had to do to complete that. If you refresh your page, there will be, Stephen added one more thing. He just keeps on adding more gadgets and gizmos. But at the top left, there'll be a results blue link, which will take you to a results page. And I'd be happy to read the top 5. The top vote getter would be Prairie Rose Elementary with 208 votes, Horace Mann Elementary with 200, North Star with 186, Martin Luther King Jr. with 170, and Unity with 170. So those would be the top 5.
Okay, thank you very much for participating in the conversation, the 406 clicks. And this is where we have landed with our top 5. We don't actually need a motion for this. So I'm actually, are you okay, Robin? I think you have to, did you refresh it? Yeah, refresh it. Okay. So I think I'm going to move us then into our board reports, the committee liaison and correspondence. Oh,
We
wait
have
a
one
minute,
more
Anne Marie,
agenda.
give us the direction, sorry.
You have one more business
We have another
item.
oh, man. Okay. You said you had more directions, didn't you, on the, are you going to tell us what to do next or no?
Well, we'll take those top 5 and we'll forward them to your next meeting on November 25th, where you would do another force matrix of those top 5, which will tell you how those 5 rank against each other, and then you'll be able to select your number 1 at the next meeting. No, I gave you the directions to refresh your screen and get you to the results there.
Okay. So we're good to go to our next business item. Okay. Cool, great. Okay, so we are now moving on to memo number 54, which is a notice of bond sale, and I am going to turn it over to Jackie Gapp for this.
Thank you. Before you, you have a board memo to approve or adopt the resolutions that are required for us to begin the bond issuance process for the construction of the new elementary. And so we are looking to break that into 2 different bond issues. So we will do an approximately $10 million issue now, with the remainder to be determined in the next few months, which will also allow us to have some bids. So that will be nice to do that. And we just need you to adopt the resolutions, and we will go about publishing that notice of sale. And then at the December 9th meeting, the results of the sale will be presented to you for final approval.
Okay, great. I'll look for a motion.
I move that we adopt the resolution providing the sale of 9.9 General Obligation Building Fund Bonds Series 2025 and adopt the resolution providing for participation in School Bond Credit Enhancement Program.
Can I get a second? Second. Okay, we have a motion from Ally and a second from Kristen. Any discussion? Any questions? Discussion? No? Okay. Anne Marie, can you call the roll, please?
Day,
Yes.
Gullickson,
Yes.
Jason Nelson,
Yes.
Kristen Nelson,
Yes.
Robin Nelson,
Yes.
Olenberger,
Yes.
Berkland,
Yes.
Clark,
Yes.
Christensen, Meineer.
Yes, and that motion passes 9-0. Okay, now we can go to our board reports. Okay, so I will, Robin, can you start first?
I'm ready.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Got 4 things. We were all invited to speak to the Legacy Foundation by Mary Jean Dean. I did speak to that group on Monday, and what a fun experience. If you can do it, it's a really good program. Did attend the COSBA event on November 6th, and I believe I saw Katie and Tara on that, and that was federal education webinar. Still waiting for a slide deck on that. They said they would send it, and then I will forward that out to you, but it was some good information. I had the pleasure of visiting my liaison school, Lincoln, last week, and that's always such a fun school to visit. She shared with me all of her school-wide state goals. They call them their WIGs, widely important goals. They all speak the same language. The school looks great. They're big Catalyst users. She explained to me the bathroom bank back in the older grades, how it would have been so much better to build single stalls back there, just due to fights and stuff in that wing. But she hopes that she was disappointed that legislation wasn't passed, and that's not in a partisan way. She again said instructional coaches are invaluable, and they're super proud of the graduates that are coming. They're multilingual learners graduating out of their WIDA program. They had 3 last semester, and they'll have 4 this semester. So working closely with their English language learner students. Let's see here. I believe that's it for Lincoln. GAC, Interim Legislative Committee. I've been watching and reviewing materials as I'm able. It's like an all-day thing. I apologize that I can't watch all of them. I did forward on each agenda has several live links, so you can see what has been handed out. I have been forwarding those to the committee, and then some of those that pertain to TIFs and budgets, I've been forwarding to Greg. The Special Education Committee met, and the Education Committee and Tax Advisory. And then one last thing that happened today, we had a SEEK quarterly board meeting that Corey's no longer on. You disqualified now that you're in Fargo. But one comment about the Innovation Fund update. This is a grant fund, and it's only for new projects. 15 schools were awarded, and there were $100,000 grants that were earned. And I'm just going to mention this. Every time I turn around, I see Northern Cass getting awarded for something. and they just received funding for an app to track job shadowing and community service and things like that. So that was exciting. And then Fargo Public Schools, South High, received a grant for some relationship-centered work. You might remember what it is, Bob, like just building character skills at South High. So I'll get more information. That's all I know. So, but it was nice to have us recommended.
Okay, did you want to share a little?
Yeah, and I can just say we did receive $15,000 FPS. We're looking at alternative programming. So before kids may go to Dakota High School or even the virtual academy, figuring out like what can we do while they're in the building to still try to find a different pathway within the building to have success. So we're going to start meeting and using some of that funding to get some stubs, travel to Bismarck and look at some programming they do there to try to get more aligned in what we do have to offer.
Yeah, what he said. Yeah, and that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Greg?
Planning committee met last week. I think really the main highlight there is that we continue to have discussions about creating a balanced budget for next year. So deficit reduction efforts are for next year are starting to come more into focus. And I'd say in the next month or two, we should have quite a bit more clarity on those efforts. So more to come from that perspective, but still definitely time for board members, staff, community members to provide input and ideas if they have ideas for efficiencies. You know, we're still very much in the planning process there. Other than committee work, I attended a Davies staff meeting last Friday. We had a an icebreaker type game for like 5 minutes at the start of it. And I thought my team did really great. We got like 9 out of 11 questions right, and we were like dead last. So I don't know. People are better at music trivia than
They
I
have
am,
high,
I guess.
high
Yeah.
expectations there.
Yeah, I don't know 80s country music, so that's my fatal flaw. And then also last week on Tuesday and Thursday night, I helped at the Claire Barton Hawthorne Book Fair. We beat our sales from last year by a few hundred dollars. So they had more than $6,000 in sales last week. Half of that stays with the school to supplement the library budget. So thank you to all the families of our CBH students for buying a bunch of books and supporting the school.
Melissa.
Yes. So last week, or I guess now 2 weeks ago, on October 30th, we met as a negotiations committee. And this year, we're really using as a learning from our in-house experts about the different facets of negotiations to be a strong team coming into next year. The first thing that we are going to start doing is trying to continue to build our relationship with the FEA. And to that end, Dr. Steiner, Laura Christensen, and Jim Erlacher and I met last week at Discovery to kind of talk about what that would look like for the four of us. We're going to start to meet every month and talk about different issues that could possibly come up with the contract. We touched a little bit on the sixth graded assignment and how that working group is going. And then just sort of generally left it open to kind of talk about other things as we're moving forward. Next month, we're going to start kind of a budgeting 101 series that Jackie is going to be leading for our group. So we'll be meeting the first weekend in December. As I mentioned briefly before, I attended the Horace Mann Roosevelt PTA meeting, and the topic was obviously after we had our first reading of the North Side Boundaries. Parents had some questions and concerns. They were all really thoughtful, and there's a very, very engaged, well-run, fantastic PTA, and it was neat to already, I've attended now 2 of those meetings, and they do a lot of really great social activities, and some of those like start right away with at the beginning of the school year, so they kind of debriefed on their color run. They do a trunk or treat, so kids can trunk or treat around a parking lot of trunks. So it was just neat to hear what's going on in that community. And I attended Evil Dead the musical at North on October 30th, and that was amazing as usual, and a really great show. And I think that is all I have.
Thank you, Melissa. Kristen, you're wearing bright pink tonight, so I won't skip you.
Oh, thank you. That's what happens. I need
Yeah,
more
that's it. I
neon
need you to dress
blazers.
right.
That sounds wonderful. Okay, so I have a few things. Last Friday, I was able to attend or just go and get into the building at Kennedy. I met with Dr. Peterson, and she invited me right away in the morning. I was there at 7:30 to attend their like stand up nice bike meeting. And so I was, and they do some other couple other recognition things right away at their Friday stand up meeting. And is that a way to start a Friday? That, like, I got goosebumps and almost teary eyed about just how they speak about their colleagues, especially the person who had the book and then passed it to their colleague. It was really special. And then they shouted out each other. It was really, really neat. Along with that, I spent 2 hours there just kind of following Dr. Peterson around, and she has really made it apparent how they have cultivated a community there. And she took the time to welcome in a student who's having a particularly tough time at home, and gave her a big hug, went into the office, brush and braided her hair, and then she got to spend some time with a counselor after that. And it was just, you could tell that's kind of what the student needed to be successful that day. And it was just really, really special. I do want to do a couple shout outs at that school. One is about Mrs. Nelson, because we were able to watch her circle, and the way she used Catalyst is, I was fascinated. And she has the way her classroom management is and the way her classroom runs. Each kid knows exactly what they're going to do next, and it's very apparent that they just have a really, really good handle on how to use Catalyst in that building or in that classroom, and what her routines are in that room. So I just want to shout her out, not just because she's your wife. It was truly fun to watch. I also want to shout out the pairs there who had some really good work with kind of a student who is having a tough day, and just Dr. Peterson herself, who does a fantastic job there. And I owe them an email for the entire staff. And then Dr. Steiner already talked about our work with FYI, and that's kind of it for today.
Kristen did not want to leave Kennedy.
I did not want to leave Kennedy. I had to go and do my full-time job, and unfortunately I had to leave, but I could have stayed all day.
Okay, thank you very much. Let's go over to Nikki.
Thank you. I attended GAC and governance, and I also jumped into that COSBA seminar on November 6th. Thank you.
I didn't see you.
Nimal?
I attended planning committee and negotiation. Thank you.
Jason? Nice time.
Just getting over a cold. I was able to make it to two of my liaison schools, one of them being Dakota. The work they're doing there is phenomenal. That was really cool to walk around with Dr. Berkman and see everything and talk to the kids and teachers. So, and then also visited McKinley up on the north side. So that's all I got.
Thank you. Allie?
I actually have nothing to report this week. I've been healing from surgery, so I've been at home sitting still like I'm supposed to.
Okay. All right, thank you. I will share that over the past couple weeks, obviously taking a lot of emails and media inquiries related to our naming process, and hopefully we brought a little clarity, and we're in a place now where people are excited about our top 5. I also had a couple liaison visits, went to North High 2 different times, and I saw Evil Dead. I did not sit in the splatter zone, but it looked like fun. I'm always impressed with their creativity there. During my liaison visits, I was able to visit a math class, health class, Spanish class, and performing arts. It's always really wonderful to just actually get to be in the classrooms and see our teachers in action. Lots of pride and positivity in that school. I will say that with my liaison visits, there's very much a repeated theme of concerns with our pay, our matrix, how raises happen. And so I know that's something that negotiations is making a priority to try to listen and try to understand and have a plan moving forward. I also attended the COSBA update on the federal budget. And then the last thing I'll share is from our governance committee meeting. We did decide that we're going to move forward with a presentation to the full board on strategic planning options. So that's going to be placed at a board meeting, I think, sometime soon, or yeah.
We had talked about maybe scheduling it right before a board meeting if it works for the company that we're going to reach out to.
Yeah.
And I did reach out to them, and they're getting back to me on potential dates.
Okay, so that'll be on the lookout for that. That's up and coming. We also decided to move forward with a doodle poll for a work session that will be coming your way at some point in time. It'll probably be later into January, February, but we figured by then it'd probably be good for all of us to sit down and talk through the mill levy, strategic planning, our budget. And then the last thing we decided at governance is to hold an info session for people who are interested in running for school board. We typically do that every other year when there is an election coming up. So we set that for March 3rd at 5:30 p.m. I will be there, and then we'll invite the chairs to also share a little bit. If there are other board members who want to attend, you're welcome to attend. And we'll have more information about that later. So that's all I've got. Our next meeting is November 25th. It is 7:17 PM and this meeting is adjourned.